Hi, everyone. Let me go through the questions, answers, and rationale for Exam 1 in our healthcare ethics class. So the first question, which quote below highlights the notion of shared decision-making in the narrative, "Nothing is broken yet." These four quotes, by the way, come right out of the narrative. And so shared decision-making is where the patient and the healthcare professional are really working as a team, but it really has to be on the healthcare professional to start the process. And so answer A, each member of the rehab team asked me what my goal was, a simple enough inquiry. And what my goal was, what's your goal for care? What do you fear? It really highlights the idea of a couple things for the rationale: patient-centered care, what matters to individuals at that point in time, and it's really about that experience. So the rationale then has to have some component adding to this notion of shared decision-making. Second question has to do with the case that we looked at in week 2, where Jerry is an OT. He discusses the case of little boy with Mrs. Todd in the grocery store. Clear violation of HIPAA. What's another example of a HIPAA violation? And actually, most of these things look very similar, but letter C indicates that a physician tells your friend about a past medical problem that's unconnected to your current condition. It's a violation of confidentiality. Certainly privacy, but confidentiality for the most part. So in the rationale, HIPAA is about privacy, confidentiality, sharing information, unnecessary for that to happen, and a violation of HIPAA. Third question has to do with Keepers of the House, which is the short documentary that we watched and had a discussion about in terms of housekeepers and the impact they make. And I think many of you, including me, found it surprising. We didn't even think of that. What's the primary lesson learned from the documentary? Again, the focus of this exam and all the questions are to identify the primary ethics theme. The primary ethics theme. So, some of these statements are correct. They're correct statements. Like letter A, the majority of the housekeepers are women and are racial and ethnic minorities. Now, that was absolutely true in this film, in this documentary. They do tend to be women across the country. Whether they're racial or ethnic minorities depends on the area. That's a true statement, but it might not identify the ethics issue. The ethics issue has to do with D. And the key word here is dignity. So I'm asking you to underline, highlight the most important words, not just in the stem, which is the question in bold, but also in the roots here. What are the most important words? Now, some of you chose C, housekeepers are skilled at noticing. In fact, that was a question that we, I believe, talked about in the class, allowing them to make important interventions. That's true. It's a true statement, but it's not the ethics theme. The ethics theme has to do with dignity. It's the relationship that patients and healthcare professionals or even housekeepers have. It's about this sacredness, ritualness, because remember, we tackled this documentary when we were talking about the relationship. And some of the examples that the housekeepers gave about bringing food to individuals or, talking to them, really, dignity is a big theme. It's connected to the relationship. Question 4 has to do, which one of these 4 here represents the medical model of healthcare, which is the primary model that we use in our healthcare system, driven first by disease, applied to patient care later, or patients or individuals or people's stories later. So the one that really stands out is B. All 4 of these individuals, their stomach hurts, but in this case, the physician immediately orders a test. Nothing wrong with ordering a test at all, but the endoscopy, which is a scope that looks into the digestive system, is really an invasive test looking for the disease. All the others, how's your family life? Are you taking medications? Is work stressful? Requires a response from the patient. Oh, it's basically almost like a shared decision-making model, involving the patient in to ask more questions. All right, question 5 has to do with the New England Journal of Medicine perspective, adolescents, parents, and COVID-19 vaccination. I think for the most part, most of you were able to get this correct because I'm asking you to summarize an argument along with the ethics rationale. Arguments, excuse me, in this perspective weren't too hard to find. And for the most part, they were based, very much based on an ethics rationale, whether it be, as I look at some of them, what adolescents, the relationships that they could have or they have had with healthcare professionals, the fact that they should be in control of their own decision-making, the idea of autonomy. They already can make autonomous decisions, contraception or things like that. And so that's right in the article. Number 6, Betty Caprice's story. I'm not going to read the whole thing, except the question is, if you believe that pain medication should be administered, whose autonomy is being respected? And it really is about Betty, letter D, Betty's autonomy. Her mother, in this case, maybe being assertive, parental, aggressive, speaking for her, her daughter's surrogate decision maker. But as long as Betty can make those decisions, even if she can't speak, it's her autonomy who needs to be respected. And the final question, which example below portrays the primary ethics conflict coming from Heinz's dilemma? The primary ethics conflict is the conflict between intention and action, meaning Heinz had a good intention. He wanted to get the drug for his wife, but he broke into the man's store, stole the drug to do it because he didn't say another way. And so which one of these 4? Look at letter C. Jerry meets Mrs. Todd in the grocery store. We know this. She inquires about the boy's condition in the hospital. He gives her a detailed description of the boy's condition. Now we know how this story is, what the story is about. Jerry's intention was good. He wanted to share information, but he violated HIPAA. He told Mrs. Todd everything. He didn't have permission to share that. And so that's a direct application of an intention and action, which really needs to be in the rationale. Okay, so just so you know, this is how all the exams, sort of the summary I'll be able to do, want to do. And if you have any questions after this, just let me know. Thanks very much. Bye.